How do you think you're gonna feel when you go back in there and start covering that again?
I think it's going to be really emotional. I try and visualize it a lot and go through it in my head so that hopefully when I get there, it's not too overwhelming, but it's just going to be.
Here we are, episode 4, rolling in May.
Yep.
Getting closer and closer to the Indy 500, one of my favorite times of year, aside from Christmas. It's a close second. Here with Lindy Thackston. Lindy, welcome.
You got to love the 500.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We actually had someone in here not too long ago who just wasn't really the same mindset. And I was
What?
like, what? Are you really
and
weren't
they live
born
here?
in the state of Indiana?
Yeah.
Like, yep.
Wow.
Oh, well, it happens. Thank you for joining
Well,
us.
thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Good. We are happy to have you for a lot of reasons, and we'll get into that. Why don't you, if you would, share with us, who is Lindy Thackston, or the early years, if you would.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually from Frankfort, Indiana, so I'm a hot dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I went to Purdue for broadcast journalism.
Boiler up.
Yep. Uh-oh. I have a feeling he went to
okay.
IU.
It's a little kind of undertone
I
in the
hear ya.
podcast
Yeah.
here.
I just knew that immediately was going to trigger the...
We had a guest on here. We've had multiple guests. Just the one so far that was another IU alumni.
Oh,
right?
really? There's
Correct.
a lot of them.
And yeah, I know. There's
We
so
gotta
many
watch
of
out.
them. Yeah, gotta watch her
I
back.
married a boiler. If
You
that
did?
helps.
Yeah.
Well, Angela Gannett at work is, a Hoosier. So
Yes, she is.
Yeah, so we got a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
But so I went to Purdue for broadcast journalism, and I was an Indy 500 princess when I was there. That was in 2001. I think that was the first year Elio won. And I was also an intern at WLFI up there in Lafayette. So I was on air as an intern. That's how I made my first resume tape. So then I moved to Southern Illinois, lived in Carbondale, and anchored a morning show there for a couple years. And then I went to Jacksonville, Florida, and worked there for 4 years. And then I got this random email one day from a producer with, do you remember the ALMS racing series?
Vaguely.
It's sports cars.
Okay.
And they were looking for someone to do radio. This came out of nowhere. So the last year of my news contract, on the weekends, I went and did racing radio and then kept doing news. And then IndyCar had switched networks. So when that happens, typically everybody's like, oh, they bring in a new crew, and the timing worked out. So I ended up getting that IndyCar job, and I think it was like 2008. Moved to Orlando. My brother's an air traffic controller, and he was living there. And I was just traveling, so I lived there. And then we were going to start this IndyCar show called IndyCar Open Wheel Weekly, and it was going to be like 26 weeks long. I picked up. I'd lived in Florida 10 years, moved back here, and it was canceled after 4.
Oh.
So, but all my family's here. I mean, it's worked out.
Were you into racing before all that started, or just...
Yeah, just like we were saying from living here.
Sure.
I was. So I met my husband doing that. He was a crew chief for 12 years, and we got married in 2013, and both left racing full time.
Who was he a chief for?
A lot of
was?
people, but
Okay.
Ed Carpenter, Oriole Servia, I'd have to think, but those were the most recent.
Okay.
Sure.
And really, he stopped doing it because I was going to be a single parent. He'd be on the road all the time.
Yeah.
It's difficult. So he will still sometimes work the month of May. And I do PA out at the track, so I still get to enjoy the 500. So 2013, I started at Fox 59 and eventually got into anchoring the morning show and MC the Pacers for 6 years. And, that kind of leads to the first sign something was wrong is, here I'm doing games until 11 p.m. and I'm getting up at 2:30 a.m. for a morning show. And so I don't realize how fatigued I am.
Yeah.
That it's way, way more than it should be. But I think that's the case for a lot of people. I mean, we're all busy and we're all tired. I had a 4-year-old at home at the time, and of course I'm tired.
Tired is part of your life. At that
Exactly.
point.
So as far as fatigue went, that was hard to tell.
Sure.
Becomes part of the persona at that point. Like,
Yeah.
you're right. You
And
just
we
deal with
were
it.
we were on vacation, like just a little family trip last February. And my husband made a comment like, you're way too tired than you should be. And I got ticked off. I mean, and we don't really argue. And I was like, I get up at 2:30. I have, I'm a mom, blah, blah, blah. And he was right. I mean, it was beyond what it should have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess we're kind of evolving into that story. But before we get there, real quick, going back to the early years in Frankfurt, did you go to Frankfurt High School? Then I assume
I went to Frankfurt Christian, which isn't a school anymore. But I was at Frankfurt High School for I think my freshman and sophomore years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a fraternity brother who is a year older than me, but went to Frankfurt.
Oh, really?
So we
well, I know everybody.
Hot dogs all the time. So do you know Jack Clemens?
That sounds really familiar.
I'm probably a lot older than
name.
you.
I'm 40.
I'm 48. I act like a 12-year-old, if that counts. At least that's what I'm told all the time.
I can attest to that.
Thank you. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Lindy, tell us what is your cancer story?
Well, so last January 2020 is when I really started noticing severe abdominal cramps, really low in my stomach, and also terrible tailbone pressure. I could not sit down. I could not lay down. I would have to call into work 3 or 4 days in a row when I would have, these incidents.
Is this in conjunction with the tiredness?
Yes.
Or kind of what led to it? Okay.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden started getting blood in the stool. And then I'm scared.
Yeah.
And my doctor thinks it's colitis. And I get a CT scan March 16th, which shows signs of inflammation. So she's still thinking colitis. Wants me to get a colonoscopy to be sure, but it was postponed 3 times for COVID. But it's just getting worse and worse. And she keeps pushing. And she ends up finding a colorectal cancer surgeon, Dr. Pittman here locally, who said he would take me in. But we didn't think it was cancer.
Yeah.
So I even went in for an exam with him, and he's like, oh, it's probably colitis. So May 6th, I go in for the colonoscopy. Chris could not come in, my husband, because of COVID. And I woke up from anesthesia, maybe a little early, I don't know. And I heard him say biopsy, and the nurse covered my ears and said, she's awake. Stop talking.
Wow.
And so I knew something was up, but you're so out of it from anesthesia, And I kept asking the nurses, like, so it's colitis? And they kept saying, you need to talk to the doctor. And so he had to call Chris since he wasn't there. And I mean, Chris is shocked because you're not expecting that. And he hardly remembers anything he said.
Did you feel like something was up?
Yeah.
I mean, with those answers, like,
yeah.
okay, this
something's
isn't right.
up.
Everybody's like, their
Everybody's
vibe was off, and they're just acting weird. And
it's like they looked like they felt bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm being wheeled out to the truck, and I hear a nurse tell Chris, I just heard the word tumor. And I turned to her and I said, I have a tumor. And she said, yeah. And I said, is it cancer? And she pretty much said, yes. And Chris said, that was a weird way to find out, but in a way he was relieved because he didn't know how to tell me.
Right. Yeah.
It was just one of those things. And I barely remember the ride home. I mean, I spent that evening in bed. You're, as I said, out of it from anesthesia, but I mean, I was just crying and it just shocking. Woke up the next day and it's like, did that really happen? But the next day we went back to see the surgeon and he said it was probably stage 3. He was thinking because he could tell it was probably in lymph nodes. And he hooked me up with my radiation oncologist, Dr. Lieger, and then Lieger hooked me up with Dr. Bierhere, my chemo oncologist. And from then on, as you know, it's a full-time job, and it was constant scans and blood work and all this. And I took those 2 weeks off work. One, I just mentally couldn't work, and it was really hard to look at my son and wonder how much longer I would be able to see him, and so it was, I think, a week or 2 before I found out it was for sure stage 3. And that's when we decided, to come up with a plan of what to do.
Yeah. When people hear you have cancer, a lot of people react different ways. You mentioned that night, having some alone time and kind of letting it sink in. Then did that persist, or was that just kind of your one, call it one, dark moment, and then you turned around from there and the attitude suddenly changed?
Oh no, it went on and on.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I cried all day long for days and days and days. And even still, I mean, a couple weeks ago, I'm driving to a doctor's appointment and just start crying. And why, I don't know.
Right.
And I mean, I'm in therapy and do everything I can. I've really had to slow down my life. And, it takes work every day to wake up and be like, I'm not going to live in fear of recurrence all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of work. I mean, it's been almost a year.
Sure. I get that. I've been out 21 years and it's gotten a lot easier. I mean, time, as I say, time heals, and that's certainly true. But for anyone who's gone through this experience that we have, Yeah, there are moments where you get a little ache in the back.
Exactly.
It could be completely nothing, but pops in your head. It's like, oh crap,
Cancer.
What's that?
Right, because when this happened to me, I'm Googling my symptoms, and they always tell you, don't think it's cancer. Google's going to say it is, and it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rang the bell, April 12th, and went to the ER the next day. I thought I was having heartburn pain as a chemo side effect, and they said it was not that. And I start going in for CT with contrast and all these tests again, and just started crying, thinking, here it is, I've already got it again.
Yeah.
And luckily it was just a gallstone and inflamed gallbladder, and I had it removed, and honestly I feel so much better. They think that was a problem since last summer, but yeah, exactly, every little thing I feel, I worry.
I'm sure. Yeah. When you were diagnosed, and then you had the initial surgery, what was your regimen at that point?
Well, actually, I didn't have a surgery initially because they thought it was slow enough growing that I didn't have to go into surgery right away.
Okay.
They don't know how long I've had it, by the way. So what they decided to do was 6 weeks of chemo, pills, and radiation, and that'd be 5 days a week. Then I'd take a 6-week break for recovery, do surgery, another 6-week recovery break, and then do cleanup chemo if I needed it, which would be through an IV. So I got through 15 rounds of chemo, pills, and radiation, left work being like, see you tomorrow. And next thing I remember, I'm in the hospital, I'm looking in the mirror in the bathroom, and I look fully pregnant again. And I was in the hospital for 24 days straight. It was a bowel blockage. So I went into emergency surgery for that. 3-week memory loss, didn't know my husband, didn't know my son, my doctors, anyone. Doing a bunch of weird stuff in the hospital. You may have seen in the paper. I was anchoring the news and tossing to Scott and trying to toss to the nurses and getting ticked off when they wouldn't do a report. I saw a neurologist twice, them trying to figure out what was up, and who knows.
Were you? Obviously you weren't aware of it at all.
No.
It was just.
And it was just like one day I remember it. I just woke up. I'm just in the hospital bed, and it was just like, hello, I'm here. Like, what just happened?
Right.
And I lost 40 pounds at that time.
Yeah.
Lost 3/4 of my hair from the malnutrition. I actually didn't lose my hair from chemo. The regimen I was on, full Fox, you'll maybe lose 1/4 of it, but it's not all of it.
Yeah.
And so that was malnutrition, and I ended up, have you heard of TPN? You maybe have it. It's nutrition. It's IV nutrition.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's when I had to get the chest port put in, and I had to do 18 hours a day of being attached to an IV nutrition bag.
That's fine.
Wow.
To try and get my weight back up.
Yeah.
And I've gained 20 of it back, and it's difficult to do when you're in chemo.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Unfortunately, post-cancer, I've done a pretty good job of gaining it back and then some.
That's what I think. It won't be a problem pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I was never able to resume treatment after that. Spent the summer recovering, and then was finally able to have the tumor removed August 24th. They took the tumor out, 8.2 inches of colon, 41 lymph nodes, and they found cancer in one of the lymph nodes. And so that's why I had to do the cleanup chemo. And they wanted me to do 12 rounds every 2 weeks. I ended up doing 10, and they were happy with that. It's very difficult with side effects. I had to take several breaks because of the side effects or my white blood cell count.
Right.
And it just got to the point where, okay, statistically, what's the difference between 10 and 12? The chemo's killing me. My PET scan after round 6 came back cancer-free. And after just talking to a lot of people, we just decided to end it at 10. And I'm pleased with that decision.
Yeah.
It came down to, if I get it back, if I get cancer again, would I hate myself for stopping 2 rounds early? I'm confident in my decision to stop.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your attitude has changed as the treatment progressed? Do you feel like your attitude has changed somewhat?
Mm-hmm. There's so many different feelings you have throughout the whole thing, because you're going through it and all you want to do is survive, and then you do, and you feel bad you did. It's like I'm ringing the chemo bell, and I'm looking at everyone who, some people I know are in their chemo for life. I made friends with them, and I felt bad. It was my last day. I don't know why some people make it and some don't, who have the exact same cancer, exact same treatment, do the exact same things. I don't know.
Yeah.
And now that I'm finished with treatment, I'm dealing with, okay, I've done nothing for a year but fight this thing, and now I'm done. So now what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and now I got to think about going back to work and how do I maintain, you know, trying to keep stress-free and low inflammation and stay, you know, as active as I can and do what I can to not have it come back.
Sure. Well, there's some things we can control and some things we can't,
Right.
obviously.
Yeah.
I have found, we talked about this earlier, that attitude plays a huge role in the process. And of course, you could say that about life in general. But really, when people get posed with a challenge like this, it's kind of like fight or flight. You really have no other option when battling cancer. You have to fight.
Yeah.
As if we all know what the alternative is.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why I ask you, how do you feel like maybe it changed? I mean, there's no cool question. We have our dark moments. Everyone's entitled to sitting there and asking, you know, why me, or why is this going on, or, you know, holy crap, or whatever. But at some point you gotta say, okay, you know, I want to keep living. So
Exactly.
let's do this.
And what happened for me was there were some people I reached out to before I put it out on social media, because I found it was actually very difficult to tell people, you know, and it's really hard for people to hear. And one of those people I told early was James Hinchcliffe. I've known him a very long time, and he obviously went through a lot with the terrible crash at the Speedway. And he was the first person who said, you better have your attitude right, period.
Yeah, he's right.
You know, and although that seems so common sense, when you're so stressed out, you really need someone to just straight up say that to you. And I do find now, I guess I'm just, this sounds weird to say, but thankful for it. If something, that's the only attitude I can have to mentally get through it. And the messages I'm getting from people who are now going to get colonoscopies and they're catching a polyp right before it's cancer and all that keeps me going and helps me to have a good attitude about it. And yeah, I just try, and anything that comes in my path now, I just try and be calm and still about it and thankful for it and patient and see what comes.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Was there ever a thought about, you know, not sharing your story on social media or trying to just from day one when you knew like this is something that you wanted to be able to share?
What surprised me is how many messages I get of people who are shocked I talk about it, that I said anything, and that really surprised me. But, you know, even my own husband says he wouldn't talk about it or post it, you know, and I guess there are a lot of people like that. So one, no, I wasn't going to not say anything. But two, what was I going to do? Just disappear off the air for a year?
Yeah.
You know? And so in a way I had to say something, but I didn't feel like I had to. I wanted to.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Everyone tends to be different. Certainly encountered a lot of people who don't feel comfortable sharing their story, and that, you know, that's fine. You know, it's their choice. One thing I found comforting or encouraging was speaking to someone who had already gone through what I was about to go through. I've done that now myself with others, but that instance I remember pretty vividly. And, you know, I guess my attitude was, well, heck, if so-and-so can get through this, I can get through this.
One of the first things I did when I was diagnosed is I went on Instagram and searched hashtags to find other, you know, 40-ish-year-old moms with the same thing going through it. And there are a lot of them, and it's such a huge support. I mean, I have all their phone numbers now. We all text. They're all in different states.
Right.
You know, and it's such a comfort to have that. I saw, you know, screenings have dropped 90% during the pandemic. And what's scary about that is there's going to be a bunch of people who are stage 4. You know what?
Correct.
Once they go get screened.
Yeah, we had on episode 1 with Brian Babbitt. It came up and we talked about that with the pandemic. People were just putting things off that they felt were elective or what have you, and we've got to get back on that.
Yeah.
I get why it happened, but at the same time, it's scary to think about what things possibly were missed, and just that extra 6, 12, 18 months.
Right. How much longer would it have taken before it had gone to my liver?
Right.
I don't know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. Well, thankful it didn't.
Yeah.
Thankful it got on it when it did, and here you are. What would you say about the whole experience or the process today stands out to you the most, good or bad?
The insane amount of support. Well, one, I'm very fortunate just from being on TV. I got a lot of support.
Sure.
And I'm very thankful for that. But, the people in our lives who mowed our grass, every week, who brought us meals 3 days a week, the handwritten notes, that has been so overwhelming to me. Even still now, a year later, to get all that stuff is just unbelievable. I mean, I got a book from someone who, she had gone through a tough time and had her own notes, written in the book. She gave me the book and said, "This is for you. Put your own notes in it and pass it on when you're done." Just really thoughtful things, that I would never think of. And what it's really made me realize is I need to be a better friend. I mean, when something's going on with someone, I really need to make an effort to do something.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. I love the idea of that book. In particular, the one, it wasn't like she just bought you another copy and said, "Hey, here," but one with her handwriting in it, and then adding to that and passing it on. That's very cool.
So thoughtful.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Social media was not around 21 years ago when I was going through it. I could see how that could be a huge resource. And that was smart or good on you for recognizing that and utilizing it. That may be something that hopefully, if what we're doing here assists others in that way, great.
And it's been good for the most part. I mean, I've gotten a couple not nice messages. Of course, I had to cut off all my hair yesterday, and that was really emotionally hard to do. Of course, it's like, oh, I don't care about my hair. I want to live. But that doesn't mean it's not hard to lose it. And woke up this morning and, some guy had put on the picture, "OMG, what a fail," and I cried and I felt dumb. I let one person out of hundreds, have that effect on me. But it's just overall an emotional thing. And I think I had just held it in for so long, and I saw that comment and I just, let it out. But overall, though, 99.9% of social media has really lifted me up and helped me get through this.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, it's easy for me to say, "Hey, forget that one comment." Why they would do that, I don't know. I mean, to me, hair is overrated anyway, but I digress.
I just think he must be miserable.
Whoever that gentleman is that made that comment, you want to comment on my social media, feel free, and then we'll have a conversation in person.
Thank you.
Not sure I was going there, but
I don't know.
That kind of got me. Got me set up.
Yeah.
Indy 500, we chatted on earlier, and you obviously play a role at IMS for that event. Do you do other events? There's all IMS events, or just?
I sometimes do the Brickyard or the Grand Prix. Yeah.
But you're an open wheel person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The Todd family has a big tradition with the 500. As you can see from my pants, I
noticed that.
Big 500 fan. What does that look like for you this year?
So I'm just going to do race day, and we'll probably have our Fox 59 morning show out there as usual as well. So hopefully I'll be doing that, and then transition to PA. And what I intend to do is probably just maybe the interview with whoever waves the green flag and a couple things. Just take it easy, and then man the infield medical center, because you can basically just kind of sit there and wait as they come back. And I feel like I can handle that. And I just feel like it's such an awesome comeback opportunity. And I was on Hinch and Rossi's podcast a couple weeks ago, and, they said, "Oh, the 500's just not the same if you're not on PA." And I thought, gosh, that means so much, because I've been doing that 9 years now. And, I've really worked hard, and it just means so much to be thought of like that. And also the racing community who has really stepped up to take care of this. This is very financially difficult. Right. I don't have long-term disability. I haven't been getting paid since November. And the Indy Family Foundation with IndyCar and the USAC Benevolent Fund have been helping us pay our bills every month, and how do I even thank them, for that? I could never repay them or thank them to take that stress off me while I was trying to fight for my life.
That's awesome. What was I going to ask? Totally lost my train of thought.
I go off on tangents when I answer, so sorry
that's okay.
about that.
No, that's good. So I guess here, I just thought of it now. You're in the infield. No third turn snake pit this year?
Oh, are they going to have one?
No, are you?
Or why am I going to be there?
Yeah. Do a little crowd surfing.
I've been out there a couple times. You know what? I'm actually thinking about staying in a motorhome this year. so that I can sleep in a little longer race
there you
morning.
go. You don't have to,
That'll be my first motorhome experience out there. Yeah.
Nice.
Outside of 3 and 4, right? Where they park the motorhomes, I think.
Could be. I don't.
Yeah, I'm going out with the fans.
You probably know better than me.
What you ought to do is park your motorhome next to the motor coaches at the driver's
No, we
room.
talked about that. That'd be embarrassing because ours is just like this little motorhome, and they have these big Priusos.
Right, but that all the more reason why you should.
You think?
And then you can take part in the late night shenanigans that go on.
Oh, there you
that
go.
Allegedly go on.
Allegedly go on.
Yeah. You'd be right there.
If you drive in and see a little motorhome there, you're gonna know I did.
I want to see it. Text me a photo. I want to see it, and we'll make some good commentary out of it.
Yeah, that would be great.
That is funny.
I mean, whose golf cart can you put up on top of their motorhome or take the wheels off of? And it was it Rossi's golf cart that they did that to last time or something?
Was it not? Was it Sage Karam? Or they took the wheels
Maybe
off his actual vehicle, I feel like Dario did or something.
Yeah, it could be that. I know. So we share a common Middle Eastern connection in our blood, as does TK, even though most people think he's just Brazilian, but he has some Lebanese blood in him for sure.
Yeah.
And we know that he is behind a fair amount of those. And,
big time.
Maybe that just, just kind of runs.
Tony sent me a nice snake plant.
A snake plant?
Yes, he and Lauren did. Yeah, and you know why? Because it's easy to keep alive. And a year later, it's still alive, and I barely watered the thing.
Well, there you go. Awesome.
Less to think about, right?
Yeah.
When you go to the race or when you start covering things at the track, as we all know, a lot of things go on, and it's not just a 1 day you're in and out sort of thing. It's a 2.5, 3 week process these days, which is awesome. And I hope that we can get back to the original schedule sooner than later. How do you think you're gonna feel when you go back in there and start covering that again?
I think it's going to be really emotional. I try and visualize it a lot and go through it in my head so that hopefully when I get there, it's not too overwhelming, but it's just going to be. I think energy-wise, I'm only able to do race day. I cannot overdo it. And even as far as going back to Fox 59, my oncologist says only 1 hour anchoring, not 3. And apparently they tell everyone, look, if you work an 8-hour shift, when you go back, you need to work 4. The stamina's not there. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping to get back to Fox May 24th and not be on air that week and just kind of get acclimated, do the 500 and then get back on the morning show. But look, it's going to be hard to get up at 2:30 in the morning, get myself together. Today's the 3rd time I've done makeup in a year, so you're welcome. Yeah. I hope it's okay. It's probably clown night.
No. But someone told me to put makeup on too. It shines too much.
It's a shine. So that's a lot to think about, transitioning back into normal life.
Yeah. Certainly beats the alternative, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Or looking forward to you being back, I should say, officially.
Yes. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
What are the odds we could talk Doug into letting you sound off the cannon that morning?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it doesn't mean you have to get up early, super early, but
I'd already be up.
Yeah. Was that 5 a.m.?
Isn't it 6?
Is it 6? I know it's early.
6.
6? Okay.
Scares the crap out of me always this way. At least I know it's coming.
Right. Or better yet,
wave the green flag.
Your RV is going to be up front anyway.
Yeah.
You pull out of that.
There you
fire
go.
that thing off at 6 a.m. and do it like right next to the window of your least. Well, no, not least. I won't say least favorite driver. Whomever you shall select.
Should I be the pace car? With the motorhome?
I think that would be.
There you go.
With the
motorhome. That would be
That'd
fantastic.
Be sketchy.
Yeah, I'm thinking Clark Griswold trying to make it around at anything over 100 miles an hour. If it can even get up that high, that would be scary.
Oh, we have all sorts of plans. Now I'm trying to think who my least favorite driver is.
Uh-oh.
Well, we won't go there.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. So obviously you're a huge Indy 500 fan.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that at length. The Pacers, you said you've done things for them, done some emceeing. Season's going right now.
Yeah.
Have you been back to any games?
We just did.
Did you?
We just went. Well, here's what happened. We went last weekend, and it was awesome. So I emceed for 6 years, and they put me up on the big screen when we were back, and just people clapping and stuff felt so good. I just felt so alive. You know what I mean? And I had enough energy to stay for half. So we actually got a hotel room downtown.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so after halftime, we go back to the hotel. And my husband had gotten the vaccine that morning and got sick. So then his side effects started. So
yeah.
We left the hotel at 3 a.m. and went home. And but I'll tell you, I got the vaccine and I'd never felt better.
Yeah.
And my doctor said, well, you went through chemo. You probably didn't feel that good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was great to be back and see that. I won't continue emceeing.
Okay.
Maybe sometimes fill in, but it's too exhausting.
It's a rough schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What would you tell someone today? I mean, put yourself in your shoes a year ago. If someone has just recently been diagnosed and they come to you and say, hey, would you speak to John or Jane Doe, who is, on the front end of their battle, but very similar to yours, what would you share with them?
I would probably say, calm down. I know it's hard to see yourself at the end of this road now, but it's possible, and I'd probably say what James said to me, you have to keep a good attitude, period, if you're going to get through this. And honestly, questions like that, and also thinking about what am I going to do with this, what I experienced, I don't totally know yet. I don't know why I went through this or what's to come of it.
Right.
And a lot of that I'm still processing. But one thing I do know is, I really love hearing from people and helping them. And I get a lot of questions. What's a good gift to get someone, or even just, I have this symptom, should I go? Or that part I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so good on Hinch, number one, for sharing that with you. He's 100% accurate. Two, I think the mindset that I know I have, Daniel as someone who hasn't personally gone through this, but has the same mindset, which is what helped preempt this thing and based on his support of the Heroes Foundation. And I think I sense it in you as well in these earlier stages of your own battle is, I can sit there occasionally and say, why me? But more, it's not about that. Now it's like, I won't use terms I shouldn't use, but okay, forget that. I want to now kick its butt and do something about it. What is that? And there's a lot of different ways people can give back to fight against cancer, whether that's raising money for research, talking to people going through the same process and helping them through it, preaching prevention to the extent that we can, and just supporting in any way.
Yeah.
Anyway, and there's 1,000 different ways you can support someone going through the process.
I've told people, even just text someone and say, look, you don't need to answer, but I'm thinking of you. The part that if you don't need to answer, that's huge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because you literally can't.
You're right. Episode 2 that dropped this morning, Chris Welch was our guest, and he shared that he's an owner of a business. When he speaks with his employees now, and I don't know anyone who really does this, maybe there are more than I know of, they will literally, with employees, finish the conversation with telling each other they love them.
Really?
Yeah, how unique is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have noticed that my friends, like people, they tell me they love me all the time.
Yeah.
And stuff like that started. I did notice that.
Yeah. The younger me would be like, okay, that was weird. But you get it.
Exactly.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, not at all.
What else do you want to share? What else should we know?
Oh,
what message would you like to leave?
One thing I would definitely like to say is, I don't think caregivers get enough credit.
100%.
My husband couldn't work for a couple months. He had to carry me to the vehicle every time. He had to set alarms to give me medication all night. He had to deal with 3 weeks of his wife not knowing who he was. And when you get a cancer diagnosis, the entire family does. Even my extended family, and your friends. And I didn't really know anyone who had gone through it before this. Obviously my grandparents, and things like that. But I didn't know anyone younger. Did you?
Not at the time.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so I had no clue about the process and what cancer life was like.
Right.
But man, I love my doctors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Yeah.
Chris Thackston, big thumbs up, buddy.
Oh, he's going to love that. Chris Hogue.
Hogue? Oh, shoot.
I love it because people call him Mr. Thackston. I'm like, that's hilarious.
Sorry. Message is the same.
No, that's awesome.
Still good job.
Yeah,
big
man.
thumbs up.
Yeah, because he also couldn't even stand the sight of blood or anything like that. And boy,
You had to
that
get over that
changes
quick.
with
Yep.
the cancer stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm curious that the book that you received with the notes in it, did you add your own notes? Are you planning to pass that along?
I've added some. Speaking of books, that is one more thing I'd like to bring up is one book. Have you read Radical Hope or Radical Remission?
No.
That's a book I would recommend to give anyone going through this. It's 10 things that everyone that this author talked to who's in remission did. They all did these 10 things. And it's just nice to read for when you're feeling like, what can I do for myself to fight this?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So Radical Hope is something I would definitely recommend giving people if you're trying to figure out what to do for someone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Take a look at that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on.
Was that good?
And sharing your story.
I always feel weird being on the
Absolutely.
other side of like of the interviews.
Yeah. Hit us with one.
Oh, yeah, my podcast. Well, the reason I decided to do the podcast was because I kept getting a lot of the same questions over and over and over again this whole year, and it's hard to answer people, especially those months when I just couldn't even be on my phone, but I want to answer people. So I thought this would be an easy way to get it out there, and I wanted to keep them short, like between 5 and 10 minutes, very easy to listen to. And it took me 2 months to figure out how to do it. Your setup here is awesome. My father-in-law is actually a production manager for rock bands.
Okay.
And so he has a bunch of microphones. So I got a mic from him and just recorded at home. And my audio is not near as good as yours is. But the first one, I just went over the symptoms. And then the next one, I talked about my colonoscopy day. And then what the original plan was. I've had to take a couple breaks because there's been kind of like some breaking news, when I rang the bell and had my gallbladder out. But I want to keep it going, even when I'm done.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I enjoy it. I don't know if this is good or not, but more than 10,000 downloads,
Nice.
which I think is okay.
Yeah.
What I care about is the people that it's reaching and the messages that I'm getting. I heard from a woman here locally. She's 42, was diagnosed with breast cancer in January. Her husband knows, but nobody else does. But she felt comfortable enough to tell me that, and it's the messages like that I'm getting that make me want to continue it.
Yeah.
So it's called Life with Lindy, and you can go to lindythackston.com and it's right there, or it's on Apple. It's on all of them, but I can't figure out how to get it on Google. But it's on everything else.
Yeah,
we'll help
okay,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We got someone backstage right now that could probably help out with that.
Sweet.
So
Christopher.
as he slowly ducks behind
Yeah, I
the
saw
monitor,
that.
so he loves when I volunteer him for things.
I bet.
Yeah. Well, that's great. We wish you much success in your podcast.
Thank you. I'd love to do more work with you guys. I love everything you do with this.
We'd be
Yeah,
happy
happy.
to.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I would lean on Hinch and Rossi as well with theirs. I've personally not listened to it, but I certainly will. I know both. I know Hinch a little bit through some things that he's done for the Heroes Foundation in the past.
Oh, has he? That's cool.
We did a quick little story. He has a beer with Flat 12 now, Rad Brewing. And one of the prior owners of Flat 12 was a buddy of mine. So Sean and James and I went. Heroes has what we call Hero One. It's a big old retired military truck.
Ooh.
And so we loaded it up with a bunch of Lego sets and drove it to Riley and Peyton Manning Children's Hospital to deliver to Legos to inpatient pediatric oncology patients. It was very cool. Quickly, they all, beeline for James.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know who that guy is. He's just some bald dude.
That's an awesome idea.
It was fun. It was interesting saying, hey, I know you drive an Indy car, like, 240 in the straights or whatever, averaging 225 and such. Here is a big old diesel truck that, 0 to 60 in a day and a half.
I bet he kind of loved it though.
Possibly.
It'd be
I don't
kinda
know.
neat. Yeah.
No power steering, which is he's used to that.
Yeah,
But,
true.
yeah,
true.
no, it was a good time. It was a good time.
See, and that's the stuff I'm looking forward to being able to do.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting back out and about.
Yeah.
Well, those things are very rewarding. I think telling your story like you're doing now, and as you already witnessed in the one lady who actually shared her story with you as being like the first person outside of her immediate family, it's very therapeutic. It's therapeutic oftentimes for you, for the person telling the story, but it can also be therapeutic for others. And that's why we're doing this. If we, you already reached one person, we reached one person or preferably 1 million people that it somehow helps, we've done our job.
And if it's one person, I believe it's the one person that needed it. So
certainly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, the hair looks great.
Thank you so much. I'm getting used to it.
I like high and tight.
Yeah.
I like my hair kind of wild, so I was like, just leave it long on the top and
you'll figure it out every day, right? Yeah.
I can't say that, so I'm glad you can do it. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, me too.
All right.